Namaste. We'll start today's session. Namas Sundara Nathaya Tasmai Halasya Vasine Chatushishti Vidhalila Yenakari Bhuvasthale Shrimat Sundara Nathasya Devim Shapharalochanam Kalaye Hridaye Nityam Kadamba Vanavasinim Swataf Putam Swataf Putataram Tatoyat Gangambaya Shankara Mauli Sangad Tatpatu Mataf Pranaya Paradha Pata Hataihi Putatamam Tato Naha Anyonya Samsarga Vishesha Ramya Api Alankritihi Pratyuta Shochaniya 1 minute. Nirvyangyasare Kavisukti Bandhe Nishkranta Jive Vapushi Iva Datta. Nilakanta Dikshita, while giving the differences between a good kavi and a bad kavi, or rather, what are the good points that a kavi has to focus on, and what are the points that he has to let go of. He gives a description of those things in a very different manner. It is not, this is a kavyam, right? So this is not an Alankara Shastra text where the poet or the Alankarika just enumerates the good points, the bad points, and then gives examples. If that was the case, then the structure of the whole thing would be very different. Because this is part of a great kavyam, Mahakavyam, he has to include certain poetic elements to bring out his points of what is important, what is the focus of a poet when he writes a kavyam. So, alankare satyapi, yadi vyangyam nasti tatra, tarhi kavyam na shobhate iti vakti atra. So, anyonya samsarga vishesha ramya api alankritihi or alankara is just padanam vishesha samsargaha. It is ramyam, it is beautiful. When you incorporate certain alankaras, it is very nice for a kavyam. It actually is a nice intellectual exercise also for us to find out which alankara this is. We have seen discussions in the earlier classes also whether this is prativastupama or drishtanta or arthantranyasa. Yes, it is definitely interesting, and it is intellectually stimulating to do that. Yet, if there is a beautiful vyangyam, are you going to enjoy it for a longer time? When you look for an inner meaning, that gives a happiness, and only that is the soul of that poetry. So if that soul is absent, nirvyangya sare kavisukti bandhe, then nishkranta jive alankritihi. If on a corpse, if an ornament is placed on a body from which the life has departed, then it is, people will only pity it, right? They will not say that the alankara is beautiful, or the very expression that the body is looking beautiful doesn't sound nice to you. It sounds more gross than beautiful. Only if a person has jiva in them and they wear alankaras, and it is more beautiful and it gives joy to people. Right? That's the aim of a kavyam, that is to give joy to people. Now, the next shloka, Vidvat Priyam Vyangyapatham Vyatitya Shabdartha Chitreshu Kaler Vilasat Prapto Anuragaha Nigaman Upekshya Bhasha Prabandheshu Iva Pamarana. In the earlier shloka, when he said that alankara is important, yet if there is no vyangyam, then that alankara is a waste, in fact. So why does Nilakanta Dikshita stress so much on this is, you'll have to remember a little bit about the background that I gave you before, which is that Nilakanta Dikshita was a minister in the court of Tirumala Nayaka. So when Tirumala Nayaka's Sabha was quite a flourishing Sabha at that point of time in Madurai. And a lot of poets who wanted to gain some money or gain some recognition, either way, if you see, don't think that just because you're going for fame, you're looking for a better opportunity. Fame is equal to more money in many ways. So that's why even if you hunger for fame, that is as well as equal to hungering after money also. Correct? So the poets who wanted fame or poets who wanted money would naturally come to a place where they would get recognition, and by way of recognition, they would get money too. That is Tirumala Nayaka's Sabha. When they came there, they would present their poetry in front of the king. And it was not a private audience that they always presented it to. If it was just the private audience, then they won't have recognition. Tatra yashona bhavati. They will have to do it in front of people who were part of his sabha or in a darbar. And invariably, Nilakanta Dikshita being the prime minister there, he would have to be present for all of these poets who come and present in front of Tirumala Nayaka, the king. So there were a lot of people who thought they were kavis, kavim manyamanaha. They would come there and then present their poetry. Most of it would be nirvyangya sare kavisukti bandhe. See, that is the connection between that shloka and this shloka. So without any vyangyam, they would employ, they would deviate into, word play and alankaras. See, alankaras is better than word plays. Word play is just yamaka or anuprasa. Yamaka is repetition of full words, and anuprasa is repetition of certain syllables, which is alliteration. These are shabdalankaras and arthalankaras. Yatra yasmin kavye shabda arthalankara pradhanam vartate tatra pradhanyam vartate tattu kavyam arthachitram iti vipadishyate. So that which has the prominence, that which the poetry that gives importance to arthalankaras is called arthachitram, and that which gives importance to shabdalankaras is called shabdachitram. So arthalankara pradhanam tu arthachitram, shabdalankara pradhanam tu shabdachitram, ubhe api ete kavye adhama kavye iti. Mammatacharya has said it in his Kavya Prakasha. He says shabdachitram vachchitram abhyangyam tu avaram smritam. Either it is abhyangyam or there is a vyangyam, but that vyangyasya tu pradhanyam nasti. Shabdasyaiva pradhanyam, shabda jalam vartate tatra, athava arthalankarasya pradhanyam vartate. Kavihi tu tatraiva drishtim dadati. So his focus is completely on either the shabdalankara or the arthalankara. Right? Now, vidvat priyam vyangya patham vyatitya. Letting vyatitya is atikramya, crossing or letting go of, disregarding the path of suggestion, vyangya patham, which is that vyangya, the path of vyangya is very dear to vidwan scholars. So vidvat priyam vyangya patham vyatitya shabdartha chitreshu praptaha anuragaha. A kavi who has attained a liking, who has taken a liking, praptaha anuragaha. Anuragaha is liking. Who likes shabdartha chitram. Shabda chitram, artha chitrancha, shabdartha chitram, teshu kavyeshu. So what is this shabda chitram and artha chitram? I'll give examples for it in a few minutes. This is equal to, he compares this to nigaman upekshya Pamaranam bhasha prabandheshu anuragaha yatha praptaha tatha. Just as how common people take liking to common literature. Bhasha prabandha, he doesn't specify what this bhasha prabandham is. I don't want to take it as local literature, because even languages today, the literature have grown so much, and there is so much of beauty in the present day languages, like whether it is Hindi or Malayalam or Tamil, Telugu. So much of literature has come about between 16th, 17th century and 20th century, and there is a development of that. What he must have meant is entertainment magazines. Bhasha prabandha should mean something like common, fictional novels or that which doesn't have a great literature content. those type of works must have been classified by Nilakanta Dikshita as Bhasha Prabandham. So it is to be taken as common literature. So common people, Pamaranam, Nigamanupekshya, disregarding Vedas, Bhasha Prabandheshu yatha praptaha anuragaha prapyate tatha. Just as how they take a liking to common literature without giving any attention to without giving attention to your Vedas. Nigaman upekshya, disregarding Nigamaha, Vedas. If you disregarding Vedas, disregarding Vedas, Nigaman upekshya, Bhasha prabandeshu pamaranam praptaha anuragaha. Pamaraha samanya jananam yatha asaktihi anuragaha prapyate utpannaha bhavati tatha. So the Vyangyam, adopting the path of Vyangya, path of suggestion, is the best. And what is the reason for all of this? If a poet lets go of that Vyangya path, knowing that it is the best path, and if normal people who do not follow the Vedic path, what does that mean? Why do they do that? The reason there is Kalehe Vilasat, owing to Kali's play. Kali is the fourth and the last yugam, where adharma takes a prominent position in people's actions. In Bhagavatam, it is said that in the 12th skanda, Vittameva Kalau Nrunam Janmachara Gunodaya. Janma Achara Guna Udayaha Vittameva Kalau Kaliyuge Vittameva Sarve Kanchanam Ashrayanti Yasyasti Vittam Sanar Kulinaha Sashrutavan Sagunagyaha. One who has wealth is thought about as the greatest person in the world. He is intelligent, he is a well-read person. Yasyasti Vittam Sanaraha Kulinaha. He has been born in a very great kulam, very great ancestry he has got. This is what people say. People think that money, they place so much of value to money, and they think that money plays an important role in everybody's life in determining the qualities in people. Okay? So Yasyasti Vittam Sanara Kulinaha. Sashrutavan Sagunagyaha. Sarve Gunaha Kanchanam Ashrayanti. All qualities Kanchanam Ashrayanti. They go and take refuge in Kanchanam. He is treated as an Adarsha Purusha here. Right? So that is the play of Kali there. Vittameva Kalau Nrunam Janma Achara Guna Udayaha. So then with those which are all very treated to be treated as very normal qualities or even bad qualities are highlighted as good qualities also. Doshaha api gunapakshe aropyante vittakaranat tatra. Right? So that is Kali's problem there. So because of Kali, you find poets not taking the path of suggestion, and they just dwell in Shabda Chitra. No, before studying any of these, Kavya Prakasham or Dhvanyaloka or good poetry, or having studied under a guru who can show you what is a good poetry and what is a bad poetry, initially when you come into Sanskritam, you will think that anybody who writes a poetry with a lot of rhyming words and letters which are continuously coming. There was one poem, Lakshmi Dhara 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 Sridhara. So people will get enamored by such poetry. They will think that this is the best form of poetry. See, in Sanskritam you can have such poetry. No, that is not the ultimate goal. That should not be the ultimate goal of a poet. You should try to write a poetry from which you are able to enjoy. It is like getting a rasam. You don't buy a fruit because it looks nice outside. A fruit that may look very ugly and very difficult to break open, but it will have some sweet, like coconut, right? It will be extremely sweet inside. You'll have to look for that Vyangya. That is more important than the outer appearance. Shabda Chitram and Artha Chitram, are just outer examples. A very good example is Mahishasura Mardini, like one of the person has just mentioned here. See, Mahishasura Mardini Shlokam is a very good Shlokam. It is God Bija Mantras and everything. You will not able to understand the Bija Mantra or the Tantra Shastra behind it. First, you'll only get attracted to the words that are there. Ayi Sumanas, Sumanas, Sumana. You will look at that. Oh, there are different meanings for the word Sumana. Yes, that is a speciality of Sanskritam, no doubt. That is just Shabda Chitram. In Stotra Granthas, the advantage of using Shabda Chitra in Stotra Granthas is you can put in Bijaksharas in those words. But the meaning of it, the Vyangya there is a Stuti Param. You don't look at just the words outside, but you will have to keep the form of Mahishasura Mardini Devi in your mind, and while you are doing this shloka, while you are saying the shloka, then the shloka becomes just wordplay. If you are only concentrating on the words and not in the tattvam behind the whole thing. So that is more important. Vidvat Priyam Vyangyapatham Vyatitya Shabdartha Chitreshu Kaler Vilasat. Just another example for Shabda Chitram and Artha Chitram. I just wanted to take an example from Rasagangadhara and show you what is Artha Chitram and what is Shabda Chitram, and how the Vyangya is not important in these two passages. So for Artha Chitram, Arthalankara is more important than the Vyangya. So Panaya Mainaka Gaveshana Lambikrita Jaladhi Jathara Pravishta Himagiri Bujayamanayaha Bhagiratyaha Sakhi. So while describing Yamuna, the poet, see, these are all in Rasagangadhara, Jagannatha Pandita creates his own examples. He doesn't take examples from another poetry. So whereas Kavi Prakasha or Dhvanya Loka, you will find very less examples that have been written by the Alankarika himself. Whereas Jagannatha Pandita writes his own examples. He doesn't borrow from anybody. So here it is a description of Yamuna. Bhagirathyaha Sakhi. Now who is Bhagirathi? Ganga. Ganga is the daughter of Himavat Parvata, Himagiri. So Himagiri Bujayamana, or you can just think of it as she is not the daughter. In some cases, she is treated as the daughter of Ganga, as in Ramayanam you have a reference for it. So here when he describes Yamuna, which is just a description of Yamuna is needed here. And when he describes, he says, Bhagiratyaha, Ganga is like the two hands of Himavan. See, Himavan's son is Mainaka, and Mainaka has gone into the Samudram and he has immersed himself into the ocean and he has disappeared. He has hidden himself. Now Himavan, Himalayas, Himavan wants to search for his son. Tanaya Mainaka Gaveshana, Anveshanaya. So, he wants to search inside the ocean. So Lambikrita Jaladhi Jatara, Lambikritam Bujam, Lambikritaha Bujaha. He has to take his arm and extend it further into the ocean and try to search for Mainaka here. So Tanaya Mainaka Gaveshanaya Lambikritaha Bujaha. Kasya Bujaha Himagirehe Bujaha. Kutra Pravishtaha Bujaha Jaladi Jatara Pravishtaha. The hand has entered into the stomach or insides of the ocean in order to search for Mainaka. Now, Ganga is a nadi which goes into the ocean, and the poet here fancies that Ganga is like the hand of Himavan, which is going into the ocean to search for Mainaka. Now, there is no Vyangyam here. What is the Vyangyam? Nothing. It is just a description of Yamuna, and with that Visheshanam for Ganga, you can just understand that Ganga is a very long river which flows from Himavat Parvata, Himalayas, to the Samudra. That's all the meaning, that is the Vyangyam there. Or it is a long river. Gangayaha Dairgyameva Atra Vyangyarupena Vidyate. Parantu, you don't understand all that in the beginning. You are just so caught up in that Arthalankara, in that Utpreksha. See how he is portraying a beautiful picture. It's nice. no doubt. But your enjoyment stops with just the words. There is no feeling that comes out of it which you can constantly think about later. That vyangyam is absent in this. So this is an arthalankara pradhana kavyam. So it is termed as arthachitram. Nirvyangyam itina tatra vyangyasya pradhanyam nasti athava chamatkaraha nasti vyangye. That's the definition for arthachitram. For shabda chitram, we looked at Mahishasura Mardini. You can take that as an example. Or this one in Rasagangadhara, he says Mitra Atri Putra Netraya Trayi Shatrava Shatrave Gotrari Gotra Jatraya Gotratre Te Namo Namaha. So this is an example of Shabda Chitram. Gotratre Namo Namaha. So I pray to the one who Gotra. See, the words are so difficult to understand and give the meaning. So I'll have to look at the meaning now. Otherwise, it is very difficult. Go tratre, the one who protects the mountains, the protector of the mountain. So go trata, so tratre. Go tratre namaha. I bow to you. I do namaskaram to you, who is the protector of go, the cows. And then Mitra Atri Putra Netraya. Your eyes are Chandra and Surya. What is the word here? Mitra. Mitraha is Suryaha. Surya Netraya. Tadanantram Atri Putraha tu Atra Chandraha. Atri's son is Chandra. So Surya Chandramasau. Surya Chandramasau eva tava netre. Sorry. So the Mitra Atri Putra Netraya, to the one whose eyes are both the sun and the moon. And then the enemy of the demons who are the Shatru of Trayi Veda. Trayi Shatrava, one who has an enmity with the Vedas, which is the Asuras, the destroyer of the Asuras. So Trayi Shatrava, Shatrave, Shatru. Yaha Shatruhu Asti Kesham Asurana. Kete Asuraha Trayi Shatravam. Ye Trayi, those who have an enmity towards the Vedas, he destroys them. So this is towards Vishnu. You understand that, right? So Gotrari Gotraja Traya. And one who also protects the Gotra Ari. Gotra Ari is Indra. Gotraja Traya, one who is one who was born in that family, or you can take who is the protector of all the devas. So that is not important here. You understand that the moment you read that shloka, you're fascinated by the repetition of the letters tra. This is just Shabda Jala. You take up Vishnu Sahasranamam, it is easier to understand the Mahima of Vishnu more than this shloka. You will only keep thinking about what is the meaning of the word. You will lose out on the importance of Vishnu Bhakti, and you will only concentrate on the words here. That is Shabda Chitram. So Shabdalankara Pradhanam Kavyam Atra. So Vidvat Priyam Vyangyapatham Vyatitya Shabdartha Chitreshu Kaler Vilasat. In a big sabha, if someone comes and says this shloka in front of the king, everybody else will be, for a moment, their eyes will fall on this person. Right? They will think, oh, what a great shlokam he has said. It is just a very simple shlokam without giving importance to the tatparyam there, which is Vishnu Stuti. So Vidvat Priyam Vyangyapatham Vyatitya Shabdartha Chitreshu Kaler Vilasat. That is important here, because he's going to take this Kalehe Vilasat and extend it further in the next shloka. Prapto Anuragaha Nigamanupekshya Bhasha Prabandheshu Pamarana Iva Pamarana. Atra tu Upamalankaraha eva spashtamasti. Krite yuge Vyanjanaya Avatirnam Treta yuge Saiva Guni Babhuva Asit Tritiyetu yuge Arthachitram yuge Turiye Yamaka Prapanchaha. So Krite yuge, see, in Krita yugam you had Vyanjanaya Avatirnam. Krite yuge, in Krita yuga, Vyanjanaya Avatirnam iti atra Vyanjana Avatarati or Avatarat. you can take it as a past tense. So Vyanjanaya avatirnam, suggestion descended upon people. Okay, the bhave prayogam is difficult to translate in either Tamil or English. If I have to say it in Tamil, I have to say Dhvaniyinal avadharikyapattadu, but there is no such expression in Tamil for bhave prayogam. It is a wrong expression. You can't use that expression in proper Tamil. But then for explaining Sanskritam, it actually gives, it is easier to say it in Tamil than in English. Right? I'm sure you can translate it in your own language and understand it. So Vyanjanaya avatirnam, Vyanjana avatarati krite yuge. So there are 4 yugas. One is Krita Yugam, the next is Treta Yugam. You had Ramavatara. Then Dwapara Yugam, you had Krishnavatara. The 4th yuga, Turiye Yuge, which is Kali Yugam. We are presently in the Kali Yuga. Right? So each of these yuga had their qualities, which is Dharma was standing on all 4 legs in this, in the first yuga, Krita Yuga. And slowly Dharma was, the number of people who were performing Dharma came down. The number of people came down, and the number of people who were performing slowly there was an adharma, adhikyam started happening, and people started doing more and more adharma, and hence Dharma's legs slowly got destroyed. And now today in Kali Yuga, Dharma is supposed to be standing in just one leg. Okay? These references are there in Bhagavatam. It's easier to look, or Manusmriti also. In Manusmriti, you have Tapapparam Krita Yuge, Tretayam Jnanam Uchyate, Dwapare Yajnameva Ahuhu, Danam Ekam Kalau Yuge. So there are 4 legs for Dharma. In Krita Yugam, you had Tapapparam. So which means the Dharma was standing on Tapaha, Jnanam, Yajnaha, Danam, iti Chaturbihi Padaihi Stitaha Dharmaha. And Tapah Pradhanam Asit Krita Yugam. Whereas in Treta Yuga, that tapas was gone. Right? That's why you find the episode of Shambara, a person of the in Asura, or I think he was a 4th category, right? Anishada, Shudra, who was doing tapas in Ramavataram. At the end, during Uttara Ramacharitam, you will find that reference where Sita is sent to the forest, and then Rama comes to the same area of the forest because he wanted to kill that Shambara, because of which a lot of adharma was happening in the city, in Ayodhya. A small boy died, and a Brahmana comes with the Mrita Shariram of that boy, and he says, Shambuka, sorry, correct, yes, right. Shambara is in Advandu, I think Pradyumna's story or Aniruddha's story, it will come. Shambarasura. Shambukaha is the person who was doing tapas in the forest. And because of that, boy, akala mrityuhu asait kasyachit balakasya. Tasmat Ramaha tatra aranya agatya, he comes and kills that person, and he is actually a devata who performs tapas there in order to get back his Deva Swarupam. Now, this is in Treta Yugam, you find that tapas had degraded by then. And so, Dharma was standing on only 3 legs, which is Jnanam, Yajnaha, Danam. Dwapare Yugetu, Jnanasyapi Krishi Bhavaha Jataha. Tarhi Yajnadanabhyam Dvipat Ityasit Dharmaha. Then in the 4th one, Turiye Yuge, in the Kali Yuga, you find that Tapaha was already gone. Jnanam was also gone. You find that Yajna is also not there. People don't perform Yajnas. And there is only charity that is going on, and Dharma stands only on that Dhanam in Kali Yuga. So you will find that slowly there is a degradation of Dharma, and Dharma is found in a very slim area, and there is more of Adharma. Now this idea, Nilakanta Dikshita takes it and he uses it in his poetry to show that in the olden days, people concentrated more on dhvani, vyanjanaya avatirnam, and he takes that kalam as like Krita Yuga. Krita Yuga meva asit. It's a rupakam here. Okay, so Krita Yuge, Vyanjanaya avatirnam, Vyanjana took prominence, and suggestion came upon the world of poetry. The next Treta Yuge Saeva Vyanjana became Guni Babuva. Guna Bhavaha is secondary. It became secondary. Guni Babuva. Agunam Gunam Babuva iti Guni Babuva. That which became, it's a chvi, that is abhuta tadbhavam. That which was not apradhanam became apradhanam. That which was not secondary became secondary. Right? So pradhanataya stita dvanihi apradhana jata atra kada dvitiye yuge, which is Treta Yugam. So Treta Yugam would be the middle time period of poetry. The next is the next third of the next quarter of the poetry world is where people gave more importance to arthalankaras, which is Asit Tritiye tu Yuge Arthachitram. Tritiye Yuge, which is Dwapara Yuge, Punaha Arthachitram Asit, Tarihi Arthalankara Yuktam Kavyam Asit. Next is Arthalankara Yuktam Arthachitram. I have given the definition and an example before. We will look at Dhvani and Gunibhuta Vyangyam also now. And in the fourth Yuga, Turiye Yuge, Turiyam is a Chaturnam Puranam Turiyam. There is a dropping of that first letter, Cha. There is a Vartikam Chaturaha, Cha, Ya, Cha yatau akshara lopascha. I think Adi akshara lopascha. The Adi aksharam also is dropped off. And then Chaturnam Puranam, you can have Chaturtha or Turya or Turiya. All three forms are possible, right? Like Dvitiya, you find Turiya for Chaturthi. So Chaturnam Purane atra Turiye Yuge ityukte Chaturthe Yuge Kali Yuge. Kali Yuge, what happened is Yamaka Prapanchaha. Yamakasya, Yamakam ityukte the Swara Vyanjana Sabudayaha Tesham Avritti. A repetition of a group of vowels and consonants is called Yamakam. That is, you have the repetition of those words. Repetition of words can occur if they give rise to another meaning. If it is just a repetition with different meanings for both of them, if they both have the same meaning, then there is a Vyangyam there is a Dhvani there. If it has different meanings and uses it as a Shlesha Alankara, then it is not as beautiful as Arthantara Sankramita Dhvani or some other Dhvani Prabheda. Okay. So, just to give an example of Dhvani and the definition of Dhvani and definition of Gunibhuta Vyangyam. Dhvani is a Uttama Kavyam. The definition given by Mamata is Idam Uttamam Atishayini Vyangye Vachyat Dhvanir Budaihi Katitaha. Vachyat Vyangye Atishayini Sati. When the Vyangyartha suggestion is Atishayini, shines more than the Vachyartha, than the expressed meaning, then it is called Dhvani. It is the Uttama Kavyam, it is the best form of poetry, and it is termed as Dhvani. So it's in a time when it was like Krita Yugam, Krita Yuga Sadrishe Kaletu, Dhvanau eva Drishtim, they gave their focus before, which is like Kalidasa, etc. I have taken an example from Bhavabhuti here. It is from Uttarramacharitam. This is a very beautiful shlokam. There is also a nice story behind it. It's a rumor. It's not. We don't know whether it is true or not. This is in the first act of Uttarramacharitam. Starts off when Rama has come back after killing Ravana and everything. He is going to send Sita at the end of this first act. He's going to send Garbhavati Sita to the forest. So before that, they have to look at their, you'll need to know the earlier story, right? You can't just suddenly have a Garbhavati Sita on stage and Rama there and saying that it's because you stayed in Ravana's place, I have to send you out. So we need a little bit of, assuming that people don't know Ramayana story, we need a flashback here. And Bhavabhuti very beautifully gives that flashback in the form of a photo album. So there is a Chitrakaraha, Yaha Ramasya Purva Vrittantam Sarvam, he has drawn it in the form of a mural, a painting, and he has given it as a present to the king. Okay, and Lakshmana comes and shows it to Rama. Now Rama is very curious, both Rama and Sita are there. They're very curious to see how their life has been painted. And by way of that, Bhavabhuti has given the flashback of Rama's entire story in just a few shlokas here, in about 20, 30 shlokas there. So there, where they were spending time on the banks of Bhagirathi, the description is about how Rama says, we both spent a wonderful time on the banks of Ganga during that, our forest life. And he describes that in one shloka. He says, Kimapi mandam asakti yogat aviralita kapolam jalpator akramena. Both of us were sitting together and we were talking something or the other. Jalpatoho akramena. There was no order, you say something and then I reply to that. I say something or I ask something and then you answer to that question. Tatha tatra kramaha eva na asita asma avayor madhye. It was just jalpatoho. We were just randomly talking something or the other. It is like, newlywed they are after all. And then they have come out. This is probably the first time they are experiencing togetherness without any responsibility of the kingdom and without any elders to, constantly tell them how to behave, what to do, or anything of that sort. And they are probably first discovering that togetherness, right? And that is the shloka. All of these feelings you will understand only when you read the shloka, but then that is not explained in the shloka. Okay, so jalpatoho akramena. What are they talking? Kimapi, something or the other. How are they talking? Are they loudly talking so that the whole forest can see? No, mandam. Kimartham mandam vadanti vadataha asatti yogat. Asatti is asannam, samipavartinaha. So they both are sitting together. Hence, there is no need to shout here. So they are talking something or the other slowly. It doesn't matter what they are talking. There need not be any subject matter at all, because they want to just experience that togetherness. And then aviralita kapolam. Kapolam is their cheeks are just almost joined together. Viralitam ityukte tatra antara madhye antaramasti iti viralitam. Antarameva nasti iti chet. If there is no space between their cheeks, they are cheek to cheek, they are just sitting down and talking something softly without any order to it, without any logic to their talk. Okay. Ashitila parirambha vyaprataikaika doshnoho. When they are sitting side to side, see the description of Bhavabhuti just brings that picture to our mind. Ashithila. Shithilam ityukte loose embrace. But here they are embracing each other very tightly and their cheeks are together. Parirambha atra alinganam, vyaprita ekaika doshnoho. One hand is on the other person and the other person's hand is on the girl. That is, Sita's hand is on Rama and Rama's hand is on Sita. They are sitting like this together on the side and their cheeks are together. They're talking something or the other. That's all is the words that are there in the shloka. Avidita gatayama ratrireva vyaramsit. It was only night which ended without even knowing the passing of time. Avidita gatayama ratrireva vyaramsit. Now, what do you understand from this? The Vyangyam here is, it was only night which went out. The togetherness you understand from suggestion, and then they were continuously talking. Their, the talk or anything that they were exchanging, nothing of that stopped. It was only night. So, Aratram, the entire night they were talking. The night also ended. And then beyond that, their conversation and everything, their feelings, all of those just extended beyond that. These sort of feelings and this Shringara Rasam that you experience from the Shloka is not present or described in the Shloka as such. He just says, Avidita Katayama Ratrireva Vyaramsit. It is only night that stopped, ended. If there is a rumor I told you about Kalidasa and Bhavabhuti here. Bhavabhuti actually initially wrote it as Ratri Revam Vyaramsit. The night went in such a manner. Then adapdi Tamil la solradhu chappana poidum. Ratri ipdi pochu. That's all you are going to say. The night just passed, went like this. Then there is no vyangyam there. Ratri reva vyaramsit ityukte tesham tu jalpanam da astamitam. Tatra tesham bhavaha api, it was just extending beyond that night. It did not stop with the night. So apparently Kalidasa, he was having his betel leaves, and then he was listening to Bhavabhuti's son recite the Uttaramacharitam. And then he kept on saying Chunna Madhikam, it seems. At one place he said Chunna Madhikam. Chunnam nityukte chunnam. We say that, that lime which you use for betel leaf is chunnam. So Bhavabhuti's son got very angry and he came back. These are all stories, okay? Because the timeline, if you look at the timeline, Bhavabhuti's timeline is very different from Kalidasa's timeline, whose timeline we don't even know. It's another matter. So he comes back to Bhavabhuti and he says, why did you ask me to go and read it in front of Kalidasa, who was just a very disrespectful person. And he was only talking about the chunnam, which is extra in the betel leaf. Why did you ask me to do this? Then Bhavabhuti asks him, tell me in which place did he exactly say Chunna Madhikam? Tari Bhavabhuti Putraha Atra Asmin Shloka Eva Uktamiti. When he says that it is only in this Shlokam, then he realizes Ratri Revam Atra Bindu is also called Chunnam. That is an extra. And he removes that and says the Vyangya or the Dhvani becomes very beautiful when you remove that Ratri Revam Vyaramsit. Then it becomes very plain. Right? So Ratri Reva Vyaramsit ityukte tatra, it becomes more than what is expressed. Then this is Vyangya, where the Vyangya is more beautiful, and hence it is an Uttama Kavyam. It is called, the term that you give for it is Dhvani Kavyam. The second variety is called Guni Bhuta Vyangyam, which is in Treta Yuga, you find that there is a lessening of the Vyangya. Vyangye Krishi Bhute Sati, when the Vyangya part does not shine as much as the Vachya. There is a Vyangya, it is beautiful, but at the same time, the Vachyartha becomes more beautiful than the Vyangyartha. The definition for that is Atadrishi Guni Bhuta Vyangyam, Vyangye tu Madhyamam. Atadrishi Vyangye, Atadrishi, Tadrisham ityukte Atishayam Nasti, Anatishayini Vyangye Sati. Tadrisham, just as how it is in Dhvani, if it is not like that, if it is not as beautiful as it is in Dhvani Kavyam, and it is less than Vachyartha, and Vachyartha is more beautiful than the Vyangyartha, it is a Madhyama Kavyam, and the term that you say there is called Guni Bhuta Vyangyam. You use is Guni Bhuta Vyangyam, where the Vyangyartha is Guni Bhutam Apradhani Kritam. Okay? An example, I like this shloka in Rasagangadhara. It's a very cute shloka. Raghava viraha jvala santapita sakhya shaila shikhareshu shishire sukham shayanaha kapayaha kupyanti pavanatanayaya. Now, the scene here is Rama is suffering from separation, viraha. So, Raghava viraha. Sanskrit kavye tu virahasya agnihi iti vayam tatra utprekshamaha. So we fancy the virahatapam as tapa or agni. It is like a fire for us. So viraha jvala santapita sahyadri shaila shikhareshu. So they are all waiting in Sahyadri mountain range, waiting for some news from the monkeys who had gone to the south and north and everywhere. Right? In all the directions, they went in search of Sita. And Rama was separated from Sita. He was there. His Viraha Tapam was just making all the stones on the Sahyadri mountain very hot. So during winter and night, Shishire, during winter season, Sukham Shayanaha Kapayaha. The monkeys were all sleeping very happily because the rocks there were all heated up because of the Viraham from Raghava. And as soon as Hanuman came back, Kupyanti Pavanatanayaya, they became very angry at Hanuman. Now, why is this? The Vyangyam is, Hanuman went, he saw Sita, he came back with the news of Sita, and Rama's Virahatapam would just go down, which means there would be less of Agni in the surrounding place. Now, this is the Vyangyartha here, but the Vachyartham is more beautiful. Right? The monkeys were sleeping very happily when Rama was experiencing separation. In his Virahatapam, they were all happily sleeping because it was not cold. And then Pavanatanayaya Kupyanti, they were very angry with the Hanuman. And this is also from Rasagangadhara. It's his own creation here, right? Jagannatha Pandita's creation. Now the Vyangyartha is not as beautiful. Hanuman going and seeing Sita and coming back, and because of that Rama's Viraham comes down, is just a normal thing. But then the monkeys are angry with the Hanuman is more beautiful than the Vyangyartha. So this is called Guniya Bhuta Vyangyam. Right? Artha Chitram and Shabda Chitram we already saw in the earlier shloka. So Krita Yugam is when Mahakavis wrote with more focus on Vyanjana. Treta Yugam is not really Treta Yugam. You should not think of it as actually Treta Yugam, but then a Kala Visheshaha Treta Yuga Sadrishaha Asite iti. Yatha Treta Yuge tapasah kshayaha asit tatha atrapi you find that vyanjanayaha kshinatvam asit. Next you will find that Vyanjana did not even have any beauty. They concentrated more on Arthalankara. In that shloka where Kupyanti Pavanatanayaya, you don't find a great Alankara there at all, or you don't even focus your mind on any Upama or Utpreksha there. Whereas in the other shloka and the other Gadyam that I said about Yamuna, description of Yamuna, immediately you know that Himavan extending his arm into the ocean is like Ganga. That immediately you know that there is an Utpreksha there. That Arthalankara just flashes in your mind immediately. Right? Okay, I will address the questions. Okay, maybe I'll address the questions now. We don't have time for another shloka. Okay, Krite yuge vyanjanaya avatirnam treta yuge saiva guni bhavuva asit tritiyetu yuge arthachitram yuge turiye yamaka prapanchaha. There's a question here. Kapinam anukampana bhavati kim ramasya shokam janantaha katham sukena shwapitum shakkunvanti tetu kapayaha na manushyaha. Right? So yes, they do have an anukampa, no doubt. Yet at the same time, your bodily demands can increase for a pashu much more than a manushya. A manushya has the capability of controlling his, the titiksha gunam will be much more in a manushya than a kapi. And this is just a situation imagined by Jagannatha Pandita. It's not, it's an example that he gives for showing how the Vachyartha is more, attractive than the Vyangyartha. Okay, hope it's clear. Yes, Madhya, you can unmute yourself and talk. Dwarakanath Madhya. Hello. Okay. You can unmute yourself if you have any questions. Nandini Moja?
Yeah. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, yes, I can.
Yeah, namaste, ma'am. See, he was saying, no, kavis are moving from Vyangya towards Shabda, Chitram, etc. It's like kavis moving from the Nigamas to Bhasha Prabandha. He's saying that, no? So
Yes.
in that, he is expressing his dislike for both these things together. Is it not?
No. Actually,
he doesn't like both, like Vyangya to Shabda Chitram. That also is not a good tendency. Similarly, moving from the
Vedas to common literature is also not a good thing. Yes.
Both together, a sort of is conveyed.
Yes. Oh, okay. Not only as an example, he is also saying that he doesn't like people who swerve from the path of Vedas. His ancestry is such that he is a descendant of Appaya Dikshita, who was known for performing yagas. So if someone moves away from the Vedic path, he doesn't like it, and he's expressed it well in this shloka also. Correct.
Yeah, through the Eva. That's what I am saying. Through
Correct.
Another one is, see, the first Kavyam is Adi Kavi Valmiki and Ramayanam, no? So that happened in Treta Yuga only. So how can he comment on the Vyangya in the Krita Yuga? Which it was
no. That is what I said. Krita Yuga sadrishaha kalaha eva tatra. So natu Krita Yuge per se. It is not Krita Yugam itself, but it is he is actually, so this is like a Rupakam here. Adena Nigiri Abdevasanam, Atishayokti, right? The kalam where Vyanjana was given importance is taken as Krita Yugam. That's all. It is like the golden age of poetry. Not the real Krita Yugam. Then Kalidasa didn't belong to Krita Yugam, and he is there is so much of Vyangya there. No.
Yes.
The same you apply to Treta Yuga and Tritiya and Turiya.
Then that's fine only. Then the Ratri Reva Vyam Seed, it's such a beautiful verse, and it is that Eva is the word which gives that dhwani, no? That Eva,
yes, absolutely. Yes, it is a Shabda Pradhanam. Shabda Shakti.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. Arun Kumar Madhu. Namaste.
திருக்குறள்ல கூட துப்பார்க்கு துப்பாய தூவும் மழை குறள் இருக்கு இல்லையா? ஆமா. இதுல கூட எல்லா சப்த சித்திரம், அர்த்த சித்திரம், துவனி, வெங்கியா எல்லாமே இருக்கு இல்லையா? இதுல
சொல்லலாம். ஆமா, சொல்லலாம்.
அதே மாதிரி கம்பராமாயணத்துல 2 அன்னப்பறவை நீந்திட்டு போகுது. அந்த அன்னப்பறவை சந்தோஷமா, ஒரு பெண் அன்னப்பறவை, ஆண் அன்னப்பறவை, நடுவில் ஒரு தாமரை மலர் வந்துடுதான். அந்த தாமரை மலர் குறுக்கிடும் பொழுது நம்ம பத்திய பிரியணுமே அப்படின்னு பெண் அன்னப்பறவை உடம்பு இழைச்சு போடுதான். அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஓமானம் கூட கம்பராமாயணத்துல வருது இல்லையா?
நைஸ். நான் படிச்சது இல்ல, எனக்கு அவ்வளவு பழக்கம் இல்ல கம்பராமாயணம். பட் தென் அந்த மாதிரி Mahakavigal Pakarche, the poetry of Mahakavis, you will find Shabda Chitram, Archa Chitram, you will find Gunibhuta Vyangyam, even in Kalidasa's poetry also, Sanskritam, you will find Gunibhuta Vyangyam also. But then what is the ratio? See, the ratio of Shabda Chitram versus Dhwani. How many shlokas that he devotes to Shabda Chitram? How many shlokas? Adu per se, if you see, only Shabda Chitra will be without any Vyangyam. Automatic அப்படி தானா வந்து விழும் சில இடங்கள்ல. ஐயோ இங்க alliteration இருக்கே அப்படின்னு அப்புறமா நம்ம பாப்போம். But that alliteration, his focus would not be in that alliteration. Ayatnataha and the alankaras would just fall in the shloka. அது இருக்கும். உவமை நீங்க பார்த்தேன்னா அந்த இடத்துல எந்த கான்டெக்ஸ்ட்ல அவர் போட்டிருக்காருங்கிறது. இப்ப விரகத்துல ராமனையும் சீதையும் வர்ணிக்கும் பொழுது ஒரு 4 உவமை வரைச்சு உங்களுக்கு அதனுடைய ஒரு போக்கஸ் வந்து ரெண்டு பேருடைய விரகத்தை வந்து டிஸ்கிரைப் பண்றதுக்காக இருக்கும். அதனால இந்த உவமை எல்லாம் அது போக்கஸ் பண்ணி போயிட்டே இருந்ததுன்னா it is still a Dhwani Kavyam there. Even if there is Arthalankara, the focus will not be on Arthalankara. You will only think about the Viraham there. And the Vipralamashankaram உங்களுக்கு வந்து மேலோங்கி நிற்கும். புரியுதா? கான்டெக்ஸ்ட பாத்துக்கணும். So that is why in a Kavyam you look at the position of where that shloka is. Yeah. It will, yes, the Shringara will outshadow the Arthalankaras. You, ama. Cholunga.
இல்ல அவ்வளவுதான் மேடம். தேங்க்யூ.
Okay. Any other question? Dwaraknath Reddy, I think you had raised your question. A hand. I'm not sure if you have any question here. Okay, fine. I think that's it. We'll stop the class with this next week. Yeah. Thank you. Namaste.